Bye-bye, Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, and the levee was dry. But this is not dryness. This is the new Blazer from Chevrolet. This is the RS version too, because that means really speedy. Come join us. Let's go for a ride, shall we? Mm-hmm. You know, if you're a person of a certain age or have access to the internet, you would never think, if you went back to the origins of the Chevy Blazer, that this is the 2023 model. Unless, of course, you're into like futuristic cinema, science fiction, that kind of thing. Because this is so far removed from what the original boxy, trucky Blazer was. And it's kind of a symbology of the times, because this is also not the rugged, go-anywhere farmer's type vehicle that the original Blazer was. Very popular with hunters, any kind of outdoor activity, because it was based on a truck and had a body-on-frame construction, 2 doors, fiberglass rear, I guess you call it a roof that you would take off if you wanted to. But it was basically a Chevy Jeep, for lack of a better term. But this 2023 Blazer RS is a crossover utility vehicle. And this particular version of the Blazer is very much a street-oriented type of thing. I should say like an all-weather, because it is available and does in fact have all-wheel drive. But it's a sporty vehicle. It's not your you know, like your hay fork type of thing. It's more of a start-finish flag type of thing. Checkered flag, I should say. And as you can see, the lines on this thing are beautiful. It's very, very aerodynamic, very avant-garde, very much an expression of what modern cars have come to in terms of it's for utility. It's basically, for lack of a better term, a station wagon, but it's got a much taller roofline. It's not just based on a sedan totally, although the underpinnings are in fact unibody and not body on frame like the original Blazer. So what do we think of this? Well, I think it's a beautiful car, and it also, like so many other manufacturers, Chevrolet these days is putting out some very bold and aggressive styling cues that are also kind of traceable to each other. You can see bits of other products in the General Motors line in this vehicle. And if you like the way GM does things, and you like the basic approach that they use to design, you're going to love this thing, because it is very, very, very futuristic looking. But what is not futuristic, and one of my favorite things about this, is the powertrain on the RS. It is not a turbocharged inline 4 like everybody else seems to be using. This has a normally aspirated 3.6 liter V6. Absolutely beautiful little engine, and something that purists, I think, will find ideal for their needs, as far as they are still uncomfortable with the concept of everything being turbocharged in terms of small gasoline engines, and liked a little more displacement and a few more cylinders. And this has got it. So let's take a look under the hood, shall we? And admire the traditional V6. Attention traditionalists, welcome home. Look at this beautiful little motor right here. This is the 3.6 liter, normally aspirated V6 engine. And man, there's something remarkably wonderful about this in that it is transversely mounted with 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3 over here. 1, 2, 3. Matter of fact, that's one of the cylinders right there. Right there. There's your spark plug right there. We start out over here with our air box, which is a massive unit. Looks like a mini Carnegie Hall over here with a huge air cleaner in there. And then it goes into this system here, right? It goes around to the back, which is where we have our injection system, which I believe is gasoline direct injection. And you go around front where you might find anything from, well, what we just looked at, the back side of the engine would probably have a turbocharger if it was equipped with one, and it's not. And down here, we have our exhaust manifold right here. And then below that, what looks like, is that a turbocharger? No, that is the catalytic converter right there. So what we have here is like a lot of space around the engine. And it's you can actually see where everything is. I mean, it's kind of nice. Now, which side of the engine here do we have? We got a lot of coolant going in there. Here we go. And our belts are over on this side, right down in here. So this is, if you will, the front of the engine, and this is the behind of the engine. And in between, you have 308 horsepower and 270 foot-pounds of torque. Well, where are those peaks at? Let me look up here. 6,700 RPM is the horsepower peak, and the torque peak is the envelope, please, 5,000 RPM. So it's much higher up than a lot of the new turbocharged engines, but that is a real healthy amount of horsepower and torque. And we are using our 530 because that's what GM loves. That's one of their favorite flavors of oil. But everything is so easy to locate. Look at here. Oil filler, oil dipstick. And I can see clearly now. All the hoses are gone. Well, there's a lot of hoses, but overall, what a nice, straightforward power plant. It's one of the least complicated, I would say, in the modern GM lineup. Because when you take away turbocharging, you take away a lot of, I always use the term complexity. They're not that complex, they're just a lot of, it takes a lot to make that system work. You gotta have intercoolers, you gotta have cooling, you gotta have the turbochargers itself, a lot of parts. And it also puts the engine under a lot of strain, in my opinion, even though they're built to do that. But this, you could almost say that the V6 has it a little easier without being turbocharged and without having, when you have that kind of power output and this kind of displacement, this in theory should be an engine that lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts. And it's hooked up to a 9-speed automatic transmission. And the thing is, I don't know yet what our fuel economy is going to be like, because that's the big bugaboo. There's two things that why so many people are going to like inline fours that are turbocharged, that are smaller displacement. One is trying to get higher gas mileage, of course, and the other is lower emissions, because emission standards are always creeping up a little bit. I don't know what's happening. This is one of the worst things for automotive manufacturers. We get different administrations in power in Washington, D.C., and a lot of times these standards go up and down and get released and get tightened up, and they don't have enough. The best thing for an automobile manufacturer is to know exactly what the standards are going to be in 10 years, so they can design their engines and everything else accordingly. I think that's one of the things, one of the many attractive things about fully electric vehicles is they don't have to worry about that near as much in terms of emissions, because there basically aren't any. So, yep, nice, huh? That is such a pretty car. By the way, what is that color? Let's look that up real quick. You know, I'm thinking Toreador red, but it's not really red, it's kind of orange. It is, the official color, ladies and gentlemen, is red hot. That's red hot right there. That's smoking. Looks orange to me. I don't know. Adjust your set accordingly. Make sure that this particular hue is red hot, because that's what your Blazer gets you. Behold the RS aluminum wheel, also known as aluminum. And the tire size is 265, 45, 21. So these are 21-inch wheels. Massive, massive things. Real nice Continental Cross Contact LX Sport tires, which are MS approved, your mud and snows. But boy, that really fills up your wheel well, don't it? That is one big wheel. And it may be the reason why the ride on this thing is not the smoothest in the world. I think in pursuit of handling, I think the sidewalls on these tires are pretty stiff. And that doesn't help your ride quality. It does help your handling, but doesn't help your ride quality very much. But that's a big wheel. That's beautiful. If you like big wheels, you're happy. But as we head aft, it's a 112-inch wheelbase, as I recall. Let me take a look here. Let me verify that. Yes, 112.7-inch wheelbase. And you got that real interesting little swoop up. You know, this here, I call that your swoop up. That's a bit of aerodynamics thrown in with styling cues to make it look sporty, fast, exciting, dynamic. I do like this black on hot red luggage on there. And here we have our rear hatch. Now this is interesting, something in here, really unusual in here. The fastback roofline does cut back on your cargo area a little bit, but it's still very generous. I'd say bigger than most compacts, but I could be wrong about that. I say compact, they call it, an EPA calls it a small, and I don't know if that's big. I think small is bigger than compact. But what do we have here? What the heck is this thing? Is this for me? Yeah, look, a little briefcase that Chevrolet left. Oh no, actually what this is kind of neat. What we do is we pull out the buttons on these sides here. And we open her up, and you know what this is? It's an accordion for your musical neat. No, it's, as you can see, this is your cargo organizer. And so you can put it back here and organize your cargo. See, in this side here, I put my vegetables here, and over here I put a little Shih Tzu dog. That's what I would do. But isn't that nice? That's a cute little thing that you can then you can debundleize it. And I'd put it back together, but I'd probably have all kinds of trouble doing it. Oh, here we go. There we are. Look at that. Look at there. Nice. Nice. Now, what do we have else that's interesting? Well, we got a cubby on this one. You got a cubby over here with like we ever really needed the ice scraper this year. Man, it was one weird winter so far anyway. And here is our, sorry about that. And here is our temporary spare tire at the ready, and your jack. And there's the accessories for the cargo organizer, the instructions rather, to explain to you how to properly use it. And up here you still got quite a bit of storage area, as you can see, which is great. And now then, you got your 60/40 roughly that folds the seat backs forward to increase your space there, your cargo area. Overall, that's a lot of room. That's pretty good. At the bottom of the screen, you should be seeing what the exact cubic footage is, unless my editing department has completely fallen asleep, which that would be me. But anyway, we got our cargo organized now. How about you? Feast your eyes on the cluster d'instrument, which we have here on our RS Blazer. And it's one of your, what I like to call your hybrids. It's got mechanical analog instrumentation on the left gauge side here with your tachometer and your temperature and your, well, that's it. It's just a really big temperature gauge. It's huge. It goes from about 90 up to 350 or so. So that is a very comprehensive temperature gauge if you're into very comprehensive temperature gauges. Then on the right side, far right side, we have the analog voltmeter, which is also huge from giving you a wide scope of information about your charging condition, as well as your fuel tank contents and your regular temperature. But wait, what is this temperature we're looking at on the right? Well, that's the actual coolant temperature. And on the far left, right up here, which I was going on about right there, that's your oil temperature. So you have both on display all the time in pure mechanical analog form, because that's the way the RS rolls, if you understand. Now then, in the middle we have our speedometer, and in the middle of the speedometer we have your basic, oops, my finger, sorry. We have what we like to call your trip computer, and there's a variety of wonderful things available to you in this particular situation. And like we got trips A and B, and then we have our fuel range remaining on your tank. Then we have the oil life, which is a factor of when you need to change your oil again. And I don't know if I trust those or not. And here we have our tire pressure monitor, and it's all over the place. I mean, you got 36 on the left side, then you got 37 and 35. But if you look at this 37 and 35 on the right side, we have an average of 36. And the other side is 36, so that's good enough. Air filter life, 90%, excellent. And then a timer for timing things. Can we time? There we go. See, and then you stop it just like that. Ain't that nice? Then you have a digital speedometer if you don't like the analog version. And there we are. So that's your basic trip computer in the middle of your hybrid instrument cluster. Now we'll migrate, or we'll walk like a pony over to the main display, which is currently on the navigation mode, and it has a few options for you as far as what you can set up on our settings for the car. Rear seat reminder. I don't know why they went nuts. It must have been a requirement from the government or something, because people kept leaving their kids in the car. But naturally you have that, and under comfort and convenience you have hands-free liftgate, which you can turn on and off, and reverse tilt mirror, which that's only really good in my opinion if you're living in a city situation and you're parallel parking, where you can see that, well, you know, and you can actually see the curb with the mirror, which is good. And then the auto wipe and reverse gear is always nice. When you put it in reverse, it'll wipe the rear. Windshield, do you call it a windshield in the back? Let's call it the rear window. And it wipes that for you, so that makes sure you can see, even though you'll probably be watching the monitor anyway. I know how you are. I know what you do. Lighting and everything else is also settable. Power door locks, all that good stuff. Teen driver. What happens if we do that? The teen driver mode allows you to assign keys with customizable restrictions. Refer to your owner's manual for details. Well, we'll just cancel that because that's too frightening to even contemplate. And there you go. So the navigation part of it is it's very easy to read, and it has pretty much your normal interface for navigation. You want to know where your destination is, you press that right there, and you say your keywords. And you can also do it vocally like you can with pretty much everything else. Always good, always a nice thing to have. And different categories, you know, that's starting to get more and more interesting depending on the manufacturer about what categories they put things in. So you can actually just put in, like for example, if you wanted to get coffee at a Starbucks, you just put in Starbucks and it'll find the closest one really quickly. That stuff works quite good. It works better than some other aspects of navigation. But since there's money involved, I imagine Starbucks pays somebody something for that information. So that's all that, and that's all that, and that's all that. Oops, wait a second. Well, let's go back there. There we are. Well, I don't want to do that. There we go. Okay, now down here we have a very long and skinny row of buttons that are all climate control associated, as well as you have your ventilation for your seat and your heating for your seat. Both sides have that. And then you have your sync, which is not on at the moment. Synchronize both sides to the same temperature. And then the automatic mode is right there. I thought automatic was on in this car. Very strange. Now here's what I've been dying to show you, because I think this is wild stuff. These enormous vents right here, which conveniently have your USB and USB-C in between. This is where you open and close the vent itself, but check this out. This big ring out here is where you adjust your temperature. Hot and cold. Isn't that wild? That's kind of distinctive. It's also very Chevrolet. It almost harkens to me back to the late model Camaros that we have on the market still. Don't we? It just has that kind of a almost like an aviation type feel to it, which is kind of cool. I like that. Now as we migrate down here, you have your shifter, which is of course mechanical completely, and your drive mode, and then your low range right there. Now the question is, where is our manual mode? Well, if you put it in L, that doesn't work, so we'll go up one to drive, and I hit the up and down button and nothing seems to be happening. So how do I put this thing on? Well, probably what I need to do is put it on the sport mode, which I will do now, and see if it works now. No, I'm not getting anything out of this. That's interesting. Let's go back down to low. 1, 2. There we go. Okay. As you can see, way down in the corner there, I am able to shift manually from gear to gear by using this little rocker button. Not the most convenient in the world, but it works. It'll work. So you do have, in fact, a manual shift mode, which can be very important when you're in your off-road situation, which is this setting right here. Off-road mode on. And then we have your towing mode. So you got towing, off-road, sport, locking four-wheel drive, which, excuse me, and it's not locking four-wheel drive actually. This is open differential four-wheel drive for driving on the pavement in four-wheel drive. And then for ultimate economy, you go all the way back here to, oops, that's not the way I went, you crazy machine. There we go. Nope. Boy, I'm good at this, aren't I? Geez, what is the deal? There we go. This is not the most easy to use I've ever seen. Maybe if I push down. Nope, doesn't do that. You have to continue to futz with it until you get it back down. There we go. Now we're down in the front wheel drive, the most economical mode you can operate in, because there is no pure eco mode on this. Okay? Yeah, you got that. Now, where's everything else on this car? Well, you have your QI wireless charging right here, which works very, very well with a phone in the case. And we come over here and you have this is what I was using to navigate the center screen, as you can see there, you see. And we come over here and here's our cruise control center. And here we have, and also for some reason next to the cruise control is your heated steering, because you want to heat up your steering when you cruise, you see. Your on and your cancel for your cruise control, and then the set is done with this thumb rocker right here. And this is your following distance, which is controlled by that. And what if I want to have steering involved with that, as I will demonstrate when we're driving? I want to have the car do some of the course correcting for me in the steering department. Well, that is all the way down here, all the way by the driver's selections thing, and there it is right there. Now, why it's all the way over here and the cruise control is all the way over here, I don't know, but that's just the way they decided to do it. I find it a bit awkward myself. But what is not awkward, and what I give them kudos for, is on your light stalk here, if you want to have it on the automatic mode, which will select Well, first of all, again, everything's spread out. Here's our off and on and parking lights and regular headlights and automatic mode for your, let me turn on the headlights here, and then when I hit this up here, it'll put it on. Well, no, it won't. Why doesn't it do that? There we go. Well, it's not going to do this right now, I guess, because I'm not on automatic, so I have to put it on automatic here. Automatic light control is on. And, well, anyway, ultimately what that's supposed to do is a self-dimming feature that will knock your high beams down if it encounters beams of light from a automobile coming toward you. As you're well familiar with by now, if you're familiar with the latest in the headlight dimming craze that's going on through all the manufacturers. Everybody's doing it. So some of them work a lot better than others. It's pretty amazing, actually, the difference between all that. So what else? What else? Well, let's look here. This is fun. Your traction control here is over. You can turn it off way over here. The glove box button is actually here, you see. It's not on the glove box proper. So I think you're getting the feeling, as you should, that this has one of the most spread out arrays of controls I've seen in a long time. Most of them are usually consolidated a little better, like pretty often everything, for example, for your headlights, everything, all your lighting period is right here. But not here, it's here, and it's also down here. So, you know, go figure, that's the way they want to do it. Now, what do we have here? Well, we have our console with our storage, and it's a nice deep console, as you can see. And once again, USB, USB-C, plus a power port right there, also known as a cigarette lighter for those of us who grew up in rural Texas part of their lives. That was always important, a cigarette lighter, because as a kid you would push it in and then it'd get red hot, and then you'd pull it out and look at the glowing red-orange coils. Well, anyway, you probably don't need to know about that. Boy, I wish I could forget about it. Okay, now then, let's go back aft. Nice big door for the most part. I'd say that's a little larger than most in the compact class. Does not quite open to 90 degrees, but about 86, 88, something like that. And then, I want to show you this right away. You do have the ability to recline a bit. Not a whole hell of a lot, but enough to make yourself really comfortable. It's actually good. We're looking at quite a bit of leg room and quite a bit of headroom. This is a very roomy back seat. Now, a lot of the small SUVs, sorry, not compact, class has pretty roomy second rows, and this is one of them. This definitely has plenty of room for even your larger passengers. And our windshield goes all the way down, excuse me, window goes down 100%, which I like. Very good for dogs. And here we have our armrest. Oh, that's nice. Yep, that's a good level. It's a little shorter than some armrests that would come out to about here. But overall, that's good. It's not the best. It's weird, actually. It seems artificially short to me because the cup holders are sitting right where your arm would be. So if you put a drink in there, you're going. There's conflict. You see, conflict. Here, may I demonstrate? Yeah, get this out of here. Yeah. All right, sticks in there really well, by the way. That's a very nice design of the inner cup. But then you got, what the hell am I supposed to do with my? See. It's not that bad. I'm just funning with you. It's acceptable. At least it has an armrest, which I do approve. Now, what about your map lights? Well, excellent. LEDs on both sides here. There we are. Nice, huh? I like it. I like it. And as you can see, the passenger seat is back all the way and reclined a fair amount, which dramatically interferes with your leg room. However, you still have, if you're 5'8" and below, you still have a comfortable amount of room here. So, and then look here, one more time. USB-C, USB. They really do make sure you have plenty of places to port your accessories. And you got to have a place to port your accessories. It's very important. And we are looking at about a 60-40 definitely. Or maybe a 59-41 kind of a setup. And this, I still don't know for sure what this is. By the way, this is, it feels like leather, it looks like leather. I think it's leather, and then you also have a fabric insert along the sides. But regardless, it's very, very comfortable. And supposedly, but I don't see, oh, there it is. Yeah, absolutely. The outboard seating positions, which are the ones that are going to be in use 90% of the time. Look here, heated. Nice. So, all in all, you're looking at very roomy, very competitive in the small SUV class as far as comfort in the rear seat. It's pretty good, and the ease of reclining is good. Now, the only drawback, I would say, with your lower back firmness as far as your lumbar support is not great. The seat feels really flat, which is not an uncommon problem with a lot of rear seats in these SUVs. They're just kind of flat. I think that increases versatility a little bit. If you have 3 people across for some reason, it might work out better not to have that much lumbar. Hell, I don't know. I do know this, the load floor is nice and flat, and that is excellent. Excellent. I do like that. So all in all, good room, funky instrumentation, and funky control placement, but you might find it to be to your liking. And that's your Blazer RS for 2023. Oh, Finch and Minute Bird, how is it you sing? Here we are blazing. You know, I think I mentioned before, but I'll tell you something. The original Blazer that I drove, well, actually, I didn't drive one until it had been around a while. And I'm not sure exactly, I'll double check at some point, when the Blazer first appeared, but it was, as we all know, it was basically a C10 Chevy pickup that had been all chopped up. Chopped to bits. They took just had 2 doors, not a separate bed, of course, just one bit of body work running across the side, 2 doors, a big broad cargo area in the back, removable fiberglass top, rear window that went down. The only body that still does that is 4Runner, or I should say the 2023 4Runner, because who knows what they're going to do to the new one. But I believe the Sequoia still has a gate window that goes down. So why are you an RS Blazer instead of like a Trail Boss or something like that? Well, this is a little bit more performance-oriented, this Blazer. And boy, it is about as opposite as it could be from the original Blazer, which was a body-on-frame truck construction. And this is, of course, a unibody crossover utility vehicle. And that makes a lot of difference in terms of manners, refinement, and that kind of thing. However, I will tell you, I've been driving this thing for 100 miles now. 110. No, 101. And it's the suspension's kind of an enigma in that it's firm enough so that it handles reasonably well, but it also does not deliver what I would consider to be the smoothest ride in the world. We are now set on 2-wheel drive highway. Then you can set it on the 4-wheel drive highway. Then you can put it on sport, and then you can put it on kind of an off-road setting, and then there is a trailer setting for your drivetrain. And by the way, let's put it on sport and see what happens to the sport mode on. Nah, I thought something really new. Oop, off-road mode on. Sorry about that. I can hear that back there. I think the differential, the front to back differential system engaged the rear drivetrain, which has been unengaged. Now we'll go down to all-wheel drive. I don't want it on all-wheel drive. There we go. Now we're back on normal highway front-wheel drive mode. So it's so different because the original Blazer was, of course, rear drive based, and this is more of just a regular run-of-the-mill SUV. I can't, or CUV I should say. I can't really tell right off the bat for you what huge differences the Blazer has, other than something like a Highlander or a, oh gosh, look at the category, even the Ford Ranger, except the Ranger's bigger, not Ranger, sorry, miles away, a Ford Explorer, although the Explorer is quite a bit bigger, but more like an Escape sort of thing. And here we drive along in our RS, which stands for Racy Sporty. Well, maybe it doesn't. I don't know what it stands for. Rally Supreme. Really solid. I don't know. But we are, in fact, in a Blazer that is unlike the Blazers before. If you go, the further back you go, the more trucky you become. Because the original Blazer was based on a truck. And the C10, to be more specific, was the Blazer's donation chassis of choice, and then they put a little bit different body on it. And they, you know, I remember I had a friend that had one, about a 1975 model, maybe, something like that. And there was something about the interior of that truck I really liked. It had a feel to it that was, you didn't feel like you were just driving a pickup, like a C10 pickup Chevy. It felt very different. And I think the equivalent on the GMC side was the Jimmy, I think. Never understood who Jimmy was. Maybe Jimmy Durante, because it had a big, no, it didn't have a big snout on it. That's not true. Sorry, Jimmy. But it was a real interesting vehicle. I liked it. And he was in a head-on collision in it, and he was unhurt. Unfortunately, the person he had the head-on collision with was not unhurt. They passed on. But it was a real popular for a while, and I think it was one of the first big SUVs that actually came out with full-time four-wheel drive right in that period of time in the 70s. But anyway, this is about as far removed from that as you can possibly get. Now I'm going to activate our cruising control here. Oops, there we go. And there we go. Now there's a button, and it's all the way down here by your driver's control knob. Now push this button, and now it's got lane. I don't know what they call it, GM land. I'd have to look. Lane keeping, I guess. And it's not the world's best. I have to be honest here. In terms of lane tracing or lane keeping stuff, here's the part right here I'm coming up on that confuses all of them, because it breaks into two sides and it's just kind of drifting off the road here. Oh, it disconnected. That's what they do. If they get too confused, if the inputs they're getting are not sufficient to tell it what to do as far as keeping it in the lane, they just deactivate it. Now some of them make a big deal out of it. They have tones, they have warning things. This doesn't do that. This basically just carries on. And you find out, see, look at that. Look at the way it corrects. It's not GM's most sophisticated. We're talking not Super Cruise by any stretch on this thing. However, it is an assist, which it's designed to be. And otherwise, we have your standard type of adaptive cruise control. And a few things about this vehicle: it's not overly quiet. There's a lot of wind noise. There's not a whole lot of road noise, but there's definitely wind noise. And the ride quality is also, on this RS, is nothing to write home about. I think it could well be because, being the sport version of the Blazer, it's got a much firmer suspension for better handling, and the downside of that is it doesn't have as comfortable a ride as perhaps the standard blazing unit. And I think there's 4 or 5 different trim levels that you can get for the Blazer. So the adaptive cruise control seems to work well. I don't see anything untoward. At the moment, we're approximately 2 car lengths back, and it seems to be keeping that very nicely. It's one of the bits of modern technology on cars that I really like, is adaptive cruise control, because I think that's very, very handy. My favorite, which is one of the simplest, is your blind spot warnings, which I don't know if it's standard on this vehicle or not. It should be standard on every vehicle everybody sells, because that can prevent accidents, literally, and it's not that complex or expensive to implement on a car. And I think it's pretty much getting to that point where everything has got it. It maybe some base levels of some cars don't, but that is such a useful feature. So this slows down nicely. It doesn't seem to be doing any of the unpleasant type of braking that some adaptive cruise control systems do, which they let you just kind of run up on stuff and then the brakes hit fairly hard. This is much more progressive and easy to live with, so it works well. Works very well, I must say. So we got a ride that's not particularly smooth. We got a ride that's not particularly quiet. So how does the Blazer stand out in the class? Well, it's got a good amount of space in it. It's considered by the EPA to be a small SUV. So, and I think it actually has a little bit more room in it than many small SUVs do. But otherwise, the big standout I can think of, this is, in the class these days, this is one of the only ones I can think of in that class that has a robust 308 horsepower, normally aspirated V6 engine. And that's pretty damn impressive, really. Doesn't have an overly great exhaust note, but people have become obsessed with exhaust, in my opinion. It's one of the least important things on the car you buy is how the exhaust sounds. But my God, are people, it's a huge thing in the pickup market, apparently, that people really, it has to sound manly, deep, bravado, in order to be satisfactory. I don't want that. In other words, if you have 2 trucks that are competing, let's say like let's pretend it's a Dodge Ram 1500 with the 5.7 liter V8 versus a Ford F-150 with a like 2.7 or 3.5 liter twin turbo EcoBoost engine. Those two, they're pretty close in so many ways. They're very different in execution, and I could see just purely from whatever your particular aesthetics are, especially with the interior, that could be the deciding factor for you. But honestly, there's some people that are going to put a lot of stock in how the engine sounds, and I think people go way. I think the manufacturers spend too much time on that, personally. But anyway, this doesn't have a very exciting exhaust note, and I don't mind that, because it's got the goods in the power department. Like I said, 308 horsepower, and a very interesting and very smooth 9-speed, not 8, not 10, 9-speed automatic transmission, and it works well. to be honest with you, this thing shifts more than I would have thought with that nice big spread of torque that this thing has. And all that power, you would think it wouldn't need to shift all that often, but I'm still up in the air about how everybody's going to so many speeds in the transmission, because the whole purpose behind it is to increase fuel mileage and to select the optimum ratio. But you do an awful lot of shifting doing that, and I put it to you, as the British lawyers say, the barristers, I put it to you that the process of actually shifting, going from one gear to another, is not good for gas mileage. That particular operation interferes with your fuel economy. I completely made that up, and there's probably no truth to that at all, but I'm sticking to it. Because I look back at a lot of vehicles that, like, I have a car that has a 5-speed automatic. Still, to this day, you buy a new 23 4Runner, it has a 5-speed automatic, and I think it works just fine. And it also gets as good a fuel economy as anything in that class gets, better than some. So I don't think that throwing a whole bunch more gears in, the speeds in there, is going to make a whole lot of difference, if any. But, you know, that's me, and that's my opinion. And I can't get over how much wind noise there is, because this seems like a comparatively loud car, and I'm trying to think, are there any atmospheric conditions at the moment? Is the wind blowing and howling outside? No, it isn't. It's barely blowing at all. It's almost calm. So it's just, there's just a lot of wind noise in this vehicle. Even though it looks, yeah, I think the styling, the exterior styling is beautiful, and it looks very, very aerodynamic. It's a nice job. But who knows? I don't know where it's all coming from. The mirrors, by the way, please me in that I've noticed this, especially with Cadillac, but other GM divisions as well. They've been making the mirrors smaller and smaller. Again, in the pursuit of lower fuel consumption and making the vehicle more aerodynamic. But this has nice, what I consider a good size mirror on it, because despite all your wonderful cameras everywhere and everything else, there's no substitute for a good rear view mirror and a driver that actually bothers to look at them. Because now everybody's just going crazy with you. You know, they don't want to turn around. As you get older, your head don't move as easily like like an owl head. It doesn't do that anymore. It does that when you're a little kid. You can move your head. But anyway, it drives nice, and it has a good, solid, sporty feel to it. But I'm just having a hard time finding out anything this Blazer does that is a standout in the class, because usually somebody has some sort of thing that it does better than everybody else, and I haven't found this yet. We'll see if it does. It's got these amazing vents. These vents are fun. I went over those with you, but these are so much fun, because there's your actual vent part, and here's your automatic temperature adjustment. Well, what price all our blazing? Well, let's see. We have a base price on our 2023 Blazer RS all-wheel drive of $45,400, and then you add your Driver Confidence 2 package, and that takes up to a total of $50,865. There's your price. Go buy one. Or not. I can't make these momentous automotive decisions for you, but hopefully you got some information off of this that'll help you make your choices. Until we meet again, my friends, which hopefully will be quite soon, you take care of yourselves out there. Pay attention when you're driving. Don't rely on all the electronics all the time. And more than anything else, try to enjoy the trip, because you never know when you're not going to have cars to drive no more on account of you burned up all the gasoline or something like that. Take care out there.